All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the end of the world with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu, and today we are talking about
Everything.
the fact that the world is essentially falling apart around us as the new year dawns and grows.
And we did briefly consider whether our naming this podcast, deciding to be quite so on the nose with things, may have spiraled us into some sort of timeline that maybe even the listeners aren't experiencing. Who knows? But we were toying with the idea of changing the title to something like Bright Days Ahead with Michael and Stu in an attempt to see if we could help shift the dynamic,
The
shall we say.
zeitgeist, as it
That's
were.
right.
Yeah,
But what did you
right.
say when we were talking about it? It's like when we first started the podcast, it was kind of like, yeah, Biden seems kind of out of it.
March 2024 or February 2024 is when we started. We're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how this election, election's still 8 months away or whatever.
Yeah.
But Biden will probably snap into shape. It'll be fine, right? No way Trump can win again
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
and be, unbridled and insane in a way that he never was the first time
hmm
around.
hmm
Whoops. Yeah, we were wrong. But yeah, it
Yeah.
is funny to have named it this and to have just had the world seemingly edge closer daily to its end since that
That,
moment.
yeah, yeah. Like we're in it with a shout now, it feels, you know?
I mean, when we did Civil War, which was, I think, one of the first 15 episodes or
Maybe
so.
it's not the title. Maybe it's just karmic retribution for covering that movie at all.
I feel like I have friends that like Civil War. Civil War is
Yeah,
like having a revaluation. I still think the Jesse Plemons scene is the only good part in the whole movie,
Agreed.
but others think differently, and God bless them.
Mm.
Well, to start off, before we just get into the darkness that is the last week or two of news, we should note a few passings. We talked a couple weeks ago about Scott Adams treating
Mhm.
himself with ivermectin in lieu of more traditional cancer treatments, and he has it's now passed. He's passed
Yeah,
on.
rumor has it that he actually heard our podcast and thought, I've finally broken through. What more is there to do? Right? Was the kind of
Well, I think he died the day that episode dropped. So
yes, a little suspicious, isn't
yeah.
it?
Um, as we said, obviously we weren't big
Did you
fans
read
of
his letter? His like last thoughts?
about like how he doesn't believe in God, but he will accept
But also
Jesus.
just kind of like a career bio.
Very,
It
very
just felt
weird.
very strange. Yeah.
Strange man,
Yep.
RIP to a legend. Another legend in our space has passed in the last couple weeks. That is Erich
Mhm.
von Däniken, Chariot of the Gods author, the
Pyramids aliens guy? Yeah.
popularizer of the ancient astronauts, ancient aliens hypothesis, which, as we know from our Lovecraft episode, was originated, in fact, by Lovecraft and
hmm
not by Däniken, von Däniken. Von Däniken just rode that for 50 plus years, though. He
Yeah, it's
was,
sort of like Lovecraft walked so Van Daniken could go
well,
completely fucking insane.
Lovecraft walked and then died alone, unknown, in misery.
Right, sure.
And 40 years later, an absolute scoundrel. I think was he Swiss? I think Eric von Däniken may have been Swiss or Austrian, I forget. Just lived a very comfortable, successful life as a
hmm
pseudo expert, and just wrote sequel after sequel after sequel, and
hmm
that was just it. He hit his thing, kind of like Scott Adams with Dilbert in his way. His Dilbert was, denying the construction
I like the
capacity
idea.
of
I like
indigenous
the idea of
people.
Van Daniken being like, "This is kind of my Dilbert."
Yeah.
And
Or Scott Adams being like, "This is my chariot of the gods."
yes, right, exactly.
Either way, both we haven't done chariot of the gods. We'll look at it at some point.
hmm
I mean, it's terrible, but
hmm
we've kind of laid the groundwork with our now beloved Atlantis episode. Ever since I 100th episode rant about Atlantis, the downloads have been coming
Yeah.
fast and quick, sort of redundant, but Yeah, it's no longer even in the bottom quartile of our
Interesting.
episode catalog. Yeah.
Well, all I can
S-
do now is beg people to listen to the Bubble Boy or the Balloon
Balloon
Boy
Boy. Balloon
episode.
Boy has also gained new adherents.
And we have actually toyed with the idea of doing a Bubble Boy Seinfeld episode podcast at some point, right?
I think so. And touching on the historical reality of Bubble Boys, of
Yes.
Bubbles Boy. No, Bubble Boys. That's right. Um, yeah, so that's another thing to look forward to.
Mhm.
And now it's time to discuss, that's right, the
Yeah,
news.
that's right. So just before we get into it, I think the basic parameters are we did touch a bit on we did the episode on Venezuela.
That's
Uh,
right.
and we're sort of going from there onward, correct?
That's the general idea. I think we haven't talked about the ICE Minneapolis stuff, and it
Right,
seemed,
which came very quickly on the heels of the Venezuela
yeah, yeah. I mean,
invasion.
specifically the shooting death of Renee Good,
Mhm.
which has been a catalyzing event for both sides.
I think that's right. And again, another tragic illustration of the sort of fog of war that
Well,
happens at hyperspeed now, right? Where we have a video or
we have
videos
five videos.
that all come out within, hours, I suppose, right? If I
Yeah,
remember.
very, very quickly.
And people just seeing completely different things, seemingly.
Well, that's one thing that I have always known, partly because of my obsession as a child with the JFK assassination, but people are always going to see what they want to in video evidence. We act as though
Mhm.
video is somehow objective. That this will, it's like, oh, well, there's no video of like Julius Caesar's assassination, so how can we know what happened or whatever?
Right.
And it's like, trust me, if there was, we still would have these arguments, right? Um, I mean, it's a little different though. You mentioned the hyperspeed with JFK. We may have this may have come up in our Cuba episode from way back, but the Zapruder film, the most famous film of the Kennedy assassination, did not air in public for 12 years. It wasn't
Really
shown. No one saw that until 1975, right? And
interesting.
it was
And I think
hero
most people think of it kind of being there in the
being on the
moment,
news
right?
that night. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, no. The Life magazine swooped in and bought the rights to it for a tidy sum, a couple
sure.
$100,000, which set Zapruder and his family up for decades to come.
Wow.
Um, Matthew Zapruder is, I think, the grandson of Abraham Zapruder, is a somewhat prominent poet. Someone I don't know him personally,
Mhm.
but in the poetry scene, I would come across that name and some of his work. And he's like, education was paid for by the JFK assassination movie, essentially.
Wow.
Maybe not directly, investments, etc. But there actually are four videos of the JFK assassination. That's another thing people don't realize. Like there were other people filming. They just don't have that that angle. The
Sure.
Zapruder angle is, but there's a shot from the other side, like it's for much further away, but you can see the headshot. You can see everything. Like it
Hmm.
happens, which is funny to think that we've been living in a media environment where there are like multiple angles of a major news event for almost 70 years, right? Like
For sure.
in any case, yeah,
Yeah, I
this
mean, I think before we get into the like media dynamics too much of this, like it's obviously important to say that what happened was completely despicable and
yeah,
unconscionable
yeah,
act and a great tragedy in which, unfortunately,
absolutely.
as happens to so many people, the people who suffer these tragedies then get scooped up into an equally depraved posthumous situation, and the whole thing is nauseating.
Agreed.
But but yeah, I mean, I think just to start it off with this stuff, it's like this is again, we talk a lot on the podcast about stress tests, right? And these sort of trial balloons that Trump seems to put up to see how reactions, whether it's anything from tariffs to court rulings to executive orders, and this has been coming. I mean, this is sadly felt inevitable the
Well,
second it
he's
came
tried
across.
it with Los Angeles, Chicago, with all these
Absolutely.
other
Mhm.
Washington, D.C., all these previous ICE incursions into cities. And this is the first time that something like this has happened that's been so, it was in broad daylight. It's documented from multiple angles. There are
Hmm.
tons of witnesses, right? I mean, there have been other people egregiously killed by ICE that
Right.
undoubtedly did not deserve that to have that happen to them. But this is the
Well,
one
and I
that's
think
kind of
someone said that, it's a tragically, horrifically American thing that this was mere blocks from the where George Floyd was killed.
it was less than a mile from where George Floyd was killed, from what I
Incredible.
understand. Um, Now the whole Minneapolis thing seems to have been initiated on some level by this kid Nick Shirley, who's a YouTuber who was going around videotaping alleged Somali
Hmm.
daycare fraud.
Hmm.
Have you seen any interviews with this kid, by the way?
I have.
He is the dumbest person that ever lived.
Yes.
It's
It's
like
incredibly stupid.
it's an amazing indictment of our education system that someone like this knows how to turn on a phone camera. Like how to
True.
his interview with Andrew Callahan from the Channel 5 YouTube channel was among the dumbest things I've ever seen. Famously didn't know what benevolent meant. He also claimed Callahan hadn't spoken up about Charlie Kirk. Callahan was like, "No, I did. Like my video from the day after I said how horrible
Didn't
this
know
was."
what
And
benevolent
then
meant.
he never heard that word before. And then no, but the funny thing is Callahan's like, "No, I did speak up." And then he's like, "Well, I didn't watch your video, so." It's like, oh,
So
so you're,
same thing. Same
so,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, like I didn't hear you speak up,
Right.
and it's like, what are we doing here? Um, a lot of this fraud has already been investigated and prosecuted years ago. This is not
Hmm.
like a new thing. It's drawn new scrutiny as Trump has very vocally singled out the Somali population
Yeah.
for his ire, for his wrath. And also, I think a lot of things. It reminds me a lot of the Haitians are eating the pets thing from the election, right? It's like it doesn't matter if there's any truth behind this. People have decided
No.
there's a truth, and they're just going to go with it.
Well, and any hook to start spewing the sort of racialized, racist garbage that is necessary to, keep propelling this animosity, right? So
That's right.
it's very similar to the pet eating debacle as well. But I do think, this has obviously had more of an impact, right, on the actual sort of day-to-day affairs of an entire state or city, at least at this point,
Well,
right?
the twin cities of Minneapolis and
Yeah.
St. Paul, there have been incidents where a lot of schools have just shut down because they fear ICE coming in to take
Mhm.
children potentially. Also just endangering staff, endangering, children,
Yeah.
obviously not ideal. I believe Renee Good was had just dropped her child off at school prior to this incident happening. Um, a lot of
Well, I think that
it's
I just wanted to mention one thing about this, obviously outside of the social and political ramifications that I hope are self-evident where we sort of stand on those. But
yeah.
I, I, you see a lot of reaction to this kind of being like, this is it, this is the idea, this is the plan, this is like the switch is being flipped. We are now entering a different phase of authoritarianism. Um, this is about normalizing, this type of thing. We
Right.
hear rumors that, Christine Noem is saying that Americans should be ready to present citizenship. Even Joe Rogan weighed in, right? Being like, wait a minute. Which again is a very classic
Now
systems
now
broken.
now Joe
Yeah, it's like
weighs in.
this one of my favorite, like, or least favorite, like systems broken of the moment is this continuing to idiotically parse out which one of us is a US citizen and how that's even more deplorable.
Yep.
What the, that there's like, and again, this happens time and again in these types of moments where we know that that doesn't matter ultimately as this proceeds. But there's something sort of sick. It's a very you hear a lot of liberals doing the like, see, this also happened to a U.S. citizen, with
As if
full of very,
that makes it worse.
yeah. And again, like a lot of these people are reeling, trying to figure out. again, because they're so spineless, it's hard to know how to land if you're someone like this. But they've spent so much time going from veering from like podcasts won the last election. Who's going to be the podcast on the left? Here's $20 million to McKinsey or whatever to
Who's
figure
the
out
Joe Rogan of the
who's the Joe
left?
Rogan. And part of that was like we've got to be a little quieter about things like trans people in sports, right? We've got to
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and we definitely should get behind the fine folks at ICE. And you still hear
Well,
like,
Adam Gentleson, the guy who was used to be Fetterman's chief of staff, I think, and
mhm.
now has that awful pack that he is just it's just like a centrist nonsense miss. He's like, we've got to distance ourselves from this abolish ICE rhetoric, even
Yeah.
if it's popular. Sometimes we have to like be more
I mean,
sensible.
this is right. So like this is when you have a moral stance where you
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you
yeah.
think you have to stand up against the political calculus, whereas every other time that anything reasonable is popular, you found a political calculus to excuse it away. I mean, it's incredible. It's just incredible to watch the gymnastics that these people
That's right.
play
Yeah,
to help continue this process. I mean, there's no uh, there's the popular will for ICE is thankfully crumbling. Um, and again, like time and again, whether it's Medicare for all, taxation on the rich, or something as
right. The
terrible as
billionaire
this.
tax or whatever.
I
Yeah,
mean, these are the things that could get an opposition a voice if they actually wanted any of these things to happen. But like that's we talk about this all the time. They don't want them to. It's that simple. And so like to me, it is about normalizing this type of behavior, but not necessarily to get a straight line to like sort of overt, visible dictatorship. But I think it's also just about normalizing the feeling of disorientation,
yeah,
right? And the
yeah,
feeling of impending doom is almost as important as delivering the hammer blow, right? And you see this, like, I think it's fair to say that from the time that the Venezuela stuff happened, I mean, we have a little list of just the biggest things, right?
yeah.
But it's like, we'll go through some of them in a bit, but just going from ice in Minnesota and around the country, Iran, Greenland, right? Like everything
The
seems
freedom
to
of
have.
the press being just thrown out
Yeah,
the window.
exactly. Right. Like Barry Weiss like canceling CBS News just falling completely. Starting to run straight up state
Big
propaganda.
profile of her dropped in the New Yorker today. Not as explosive as I would have liked,
But it's
but does
it,
basically speak to the
right,
craven
like
nature of her
European
project.
troops going to Greenland. I mean, it just feels
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's over and over again to the point where you just kind of put your hands up and you're like, I don't know what's coming next. I don't know. Even if there was a coherent opposition, it's like, how does it deal with all of this?
yeah. And I've had friends reach out, just friends that I talk to constantly, for the first time expressing a kind of existential despair
Mhm.
at the unrelenting nature of the news in recent weeks. It's very upsetting. These are people that have careers, that have families, that are more successful than even I am, believe it or not. Wait, that applies to everyone. But this is not good for anyone's mental health. Like, not to put too fine a point on it, but it's just like the uncertainty is destabilizing in a way that feels, as you say, I don't necessarily know that there's some kind of like plan in place to roll back our rights and blah blah blah, stop all
Mhm.
elections, whatever. I mean, we'll get to that in a couple months when there's the
Yeah.
midterms, right? But it does seem generated from a point of pure malice, right? It's just like the owning the libs of it all has become like not even owning the libs, like ruining the libs' minds, ruining
Well,
like
and I also think like again, to use the example of like centrists or what have you, be self-described centrists or moderates being like, we have to get away from the abolish language,
right,
right?
right.
And this is very similar to the dynamic that we see play out time and time again, whether it's Trump claiming that a sovereign country is going to pay for a border wall against itself. And yet, on the other side, Bernie Sanders is admonished for being so unrealistic as to have people go to the doctor. Right? Like, this is the basic through line where while a moron is out there going, be very careful about saying abolish, the State Department, the Department of Labor, the White House's social media feeds are now full of like not there's no subtext is my point. It's just
Right. It's
straight up
just
Nazi
Nazi
language,
Nazi
right?
shit. Yeah.
Imagery, references, direct references to that time and that movement. And they don't seem to worry about the intricacies of their language now, do they?
Yeah, I
And,
don't think the
and
parliamentarian is really on their mind.
yes, right. What will the ombudsman say, Stu? But like not to again, it's like you feel conspiratorial until it's just in front of you, right?
Yeah,
But
that's
I
right.
would say from everything that we've known about politics, um, basically in our entire lifetime, it's pretty reasonable at this point to say that it looks like these people don't think they're going to be running an election again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like it. And I don't know what that means, whether they know that this is the last kick at the can and they're not going to be able to win, or Trump's not going to be able to stay in power, for real for another term or whatever it is. But they don't seem worried about, uh, a Republican congressman in a purple state. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's well said. Let's move on to Iran, which has, again, as seems to happen every few years, had an emergent protest movement
Mhm.
be brutally repressed in the last couple weeks. This was a weird one. I forget if we touched on this, but yeah, I think we talked about it last week, where Reza Pahlavi had kind of emerged. He's the son of the deposed Shah of Iran.
Mhm.
Had been he'd kind of emerged as like a leader, like I'll swoop in and like take over again.
Right.
And I think I mentioned that I saw him speak back in 2002
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and that he was like one of the least inspiring morons I've ever heard speak. And I went to Yale, so I heard a lot of really dumb people expound on things with an enormous amount of confidence and hubris, right? I mean, so sort of what Yale is known for.
Yeah.
Some good people too, but you know. Anyway, uh, Trump had said that he was going to help. He put out a kind of like, "I will help you," protesters. Like, you need to get rid of
Right.
the
He even said, I
government.
think one death would be too many, sort of, hours after ICE had murdered someone in Minnesota.
Mysterious. But believe it or not, he has failed to act. And I think part of this is just, well, on the one hand, Israel and other regional allies of the US, like Qatar and UAE people, have been like, don't attack Iran because
Mhm.
that'll lead to a bigger war. It'll destabilize oil prices. It'll do all these things, whatever. So he didn't. But this has left the sort of protest movement in Iran feeling betrayed, I think is the word. They say, I've got an article from Time magazine where he
Okay.
says, protesters feel abandoned by Trump, who has not helped. He's not only yellow on the outside, he's yellow inside, said an arts teacher in Tehran. Burn. After he said the Iranian authorities had told him there won't be any more killings and executions, everyone was just stunned, said an Iranian interviewed Friday after traveling out of the country. Everyone was enraged. They just kept saying, this bastard used us as cannon fodder. Iranians feel that they were played, that he fooled them, deceived them. So basically, what happened is like Trump backed down after talking through intermediaries with the
Right.
Khomeini government,
Right.
and
From a state that has, I think, even admitted that they've killed a bunch of people at this point, right?
right. I mean, and early we saw reports that tens of thousands of protesters had been killed. I think
Mhm.
that was maybe slightly overstated, but certainly hundreds, if not thousands, of protesters
Yes.
have definitely been killed.
But it is a remarkable, like these quotes are remarkable to me in the sense that like he is so transparently a con man,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
And it's amazing how he's now been involved in this way for over a decade, right? If we go from the time that he like ran for president,
sure.
and he's just one note, right? And what I mean is like he'll just say whatever and then not do anything remotely correctly, right? Like and I feel for these people, but it's like you really feel played, fooled, and deceived. Like fool me how many times, you know?
Absolutely. And it's like I'm no fan of the Iranian regime, but I'm also not a fan of Reza Shah Pahlavi coming back, right? Like,
Sure.
and as a like CIA agent running Iran as a US client state, which was
Hmm.
the reality of Iran in the 70s. So it's kind of like, what are we doing? Iran's ruler, continuing the article from Time, Iran's rulers publicly gloated over Trump's reversal. On Friday, Trump thanked them for promising to stop the planned executions of 800 protesters, the
Oh,
assurance he had
God.
offered as grounds for withholding military action so widely expected that international flights steered around Iranian airspace. So this was over this past weekend. I think Friday was anticipated that Trump would strike Iran. Families of U.S. Troops and other people in the
Yeah, I think
Gulf.
they shut down the airspace, right, for a while.
Yeah, so it was like, that's what happened prior to the bombing last year. And
Right. And then, of course, this is after days of being like, if you kill anybody, we're coming for you. And then he acts like victorious and strongmanned Iran
it's probably another
because,
another instance of him, stopping a war, right? So this is
right,
why.
right. He chalks this one up. It's like, oh no, they actually planned to do way worse, and I got them to stop. So let's not do that part that I said before.
Yeah, yeah. Just a baffling and depressing and dark uh, situation overall. Meanwhile, there's been an attack on the freedom of the press.
Mm.
Do you want to read to us about this, Michael?
Yeah, so this is from Democracy Now, but reports that the FBI actually raided the home of Hannah Natanson. I haven't followed any of her work, but she covers, as you can imagine, the Trump administration.
Weird.
Um, and the Reporters Committee of Freedom of the Press called the raid a tremendous escalation in the administration's intrusion into the independence of the press. Reports are the FBI agents searched her home, seized a phone, a watch, personal computer, as well as one owned by the Post. And that apparently it was related to an investigation of a government contractor and Navy veteran named Aurelio Perez Lugones, who's accused of illegally retaining classified government materials. Um, and this is the
So
type
this
of
is like a
thing.
leak investigation by the
Yeah, I
FBI.
guess. Right, right. And these are the types of things that these major macro stories that come in over and over again really just send this to the back pages. I mean, there's no hope for this type of groundwork if we're assuming that it's happening. I mean, I'm sure that if you just went right now and type like 2026 election voting machines or election rules, you would see, 1,000 stories about local Republican parties overturning all kinds of rules and regulate,
Yeah.
um, but it's just, we are at that point. It is impossible to keep up with this stuff. You're just kind of grasping at whatever comes across your your feed. Speaking of which, was this today that the letter? Do you want to talk about the
Well, I
most
just
recent
before we get
Greenland?
into that, I just want to say that this Post reporter having their stuff, this is like a part of a broader attack on the media that's been
Yeah,
underway since the beginning of the administration with all the incredibly spurious and stupid lawsuits about like CBS unfairly editing Kamala's
yeah.
60 Minutes interview. And also, it just
The
feels
Kimmel nightmare.
the Kim, yeah, that we barely survived as a culture. And also, just the way that they've kicked out all the reputable journalists from the Pentagon. And now it's all like, you know, just literal crank maniacs.
Yeah, and like
And just like Bari Weiss taking over CBS, and even Bari did an interview with Trump over the weekend where they like kissed at the beginning of the interview on the
oh,
cheek.
cool.
It's
That's
always
cool.
good to kiss your interview subject, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Hmm.
And
Just before you hit him with that fastball, Stu.
That's the thing, right? That's how you get them off. You get them off balance. It's a changeup.
It
Yeah.
was a real Frost Nixon moment, right?
Oh yeah. Well, they famously hooked up after their interviews. No, but even Bari Weiss, who's essentially state media, right, at CBS,
Mhm.
like the press secretary threatened her, was like, if you edit 1 second of Trump's interview unfairly, we're gonna sue you into the ground.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, well, I'm glad they settled that first lawsuit. That was smart because it's not created a precedent. But yeah, moving on, like the Greenland thing has been really escalating this week, where Trump is insisting that we need Greenland for national security reasons, despite
Yep.
America having a treaty since the 50s that says essentially we can do whatever we want in Greenland
That's
forever.
correct. Yep.
And he sent this letter to the Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre of Norway, which basically, I think Norway and other countries have been reaching out to Trump to be like, what the fuck are you doing to Denmark? This is
Yeah.
stupid. An irony, I forget if we touched on this, but like Denmark is among the most right wing of the Western European countries,
Hmm.
the ones that have like caved to all of Trump's like demands for upping military fund, all the stuff that he's always talking about. So we get this letter from Trump, which is among the most like mind-bogglingly stupid things I've ever read. Just again saying something because I did go to Yale, but I don't want to slagging off Yale so much today, but I think it can survive even my attacks. The fusillades of my vitriol, Yale will endure. Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant. But
Right. Right.
now can think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago. But we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. And
Right.
now NATO should do something for the United States.
Finally.
The world, also there's irregular caps throughout this. The world capital is not secure unless we have complete capital and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. So, like, just the thing about the boats is
Mm.
so mind-numbingly dumb. And like there's no documents. I mean, I'm not a scholar of like Norse sovereignty issues, but I am sure there are actually some documents, right? Laying out the relationship between Denmark and I'm pretty sure those exist, right?
Right.
Little brief history of Greenland, right? Greenland
It'd be
famously
funny if they were scrambling, putting together a bunch of documents down. They were
they're
like,
like, oh my God, here,
all we had was that boat thing, and he's
they're
calling on us.
they're
He's calling
spilling
it
they're
all.
spilling tea on it to make it look old and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
yeah. Now, Greenland was first found in the 900s by Eric the Red, famously. This
Hmm.
is a long, and I'm not an expert, but this is been a long obsession of mine. It does come up in several of my books. But one of the things that he did allegedly was to be like naming it Greenland to try and con people to move there, even
Yeah.
though it was like an icy hellhole. like, um, and the Norse had colonies in Greenland up until the 1400s or so, at which point I think is when around when the Little Ice Age kicks off. And for whatever reason, they abandoned it for 300 years, only coming back in the 1700s. This is what led to the modern Danish colonization. Now, have always been indigenous Inuit peoples living in Greenland throughout this
Mhm.
whole time. They had contact with the Norse back in the day. The Norse called them the Skraelings, very uh bad sounding name. It's like who's that guy? Oh, that's a Skraeling. Don't pay him no mind. In any case, there is a long history. Now, obviously, Greenland is a colony and they should have the right to self-determination.
Right.
Indigenous sovereignty should be restored. And that is I'm 100% fine with that. Bjork, I think as we may have discussed, famously was like Greenland, get your independence now. Like
That's right.
Like if Iceland hadn't gotten it, we'd be all speaking Danish now. This would be a nightmare. And you've never been to Iceland, have you, Michael?
No.
Oh, it rules. It's really cool. I was there for like 10 days in 2006. Really beautiful country. Much nicer than Greenland, though. Greenland is like really an icy wasteland.
Hmm.
Um, Now, this letter, I mean, directly just coming out and linking the failure to get the Nobel Prize to the
Yep.
demand to Greenland. This is like the
Yeah, I
be
mean it's the same thing with getting he got the prize donated to him recently,
Oh
right?
yeah, we didn't even talk. That isn't even on the list. But yeah, Machado came and gave him the. There's a bunch of really flattering photos of Trump receiving the medal from
And
her.
it's like someone, it's obviously someone said on X is just like, do they actually not understand how embarrassing this looks? Like, is that possible? And or are they just so overrun by his like insane requests on like an hourly or minute by
Right.
minute basis?
It's like Trump demanding Tom Brady give him a Super Bowl ring or something, right?
Sure,
And then Trump will
sure.
be
And
like,
like, why
and then Trump
not?
will be like,
Why
I'm a
not?
Super Bowl champion. See, here's the ring. And it's like,
Yes,
well,
it's very, very similar to that. And
I mean, the
but
famous incident with Putin stealing Bob Kraft's ring comes to mind, right?
but it's also like, yeah, it's this idea of like having stopped 8 wars plus, like what are you saying? And who exactly is this for? I mean, like this is not going to end up being the actual grounds for taking over Greenland, is it? Like it's literally going to be like, well, it should have given me the note like on the day. You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
that seems to be what he's saying, right? I mean, it's madness. The other thing is
I
like,
mean, you gotta wonder, does he just get it? Does he get next year's
well,
Nobel?
that's what I was gonna say. Does Trump not realize that they give one out every year? And that the one they gave out this year isn't based on, it's like
I mean, it'd be fascinating if they just started giving it to him every year and we just ushered in a new era of tranquility, you know?
I mean, the Trump administration has been really on a tear with the fetishization also of whole milk. Have you been following this?
Yeah, it's what he said it once, and then all of a sudden they were just doing a media campaign
Well, I
about
think
it.
it's an RFK right wing Maha thing, Make America Healthy
I
Again
see.
thing.
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense, mind you. Like, whole
Hmm.
milk does not have more calcium or any of the beneficial nutrients you get from milk. All it has is more saturated fat, essentially.
And
So it's
you saw the video of like the all
of the
the
like
kids drinking it?
who and the kids all look terrible.
They
Like the
look
kids,
terrified.
the children look like they're on death's door. They look
Yes.
like they're Scandinavian
Like to the point where it's
tuberculosis
like,
patients.
is this on purpose?
Are they're from an Edvard Munch painting. Like they're
Sort of like yeah,
terrifying
like
children.
straight out of central casting type thing, like to use Trump
I don't
talent.
know. They also had Riley Gaines do one, the famous tied for fifth swimmer
Yeah.
who hates trans people.
Hmm.
Even though if that trans person who won the one race that she got fifth in hadn't been in there, she still would not have. She would have been in fourth, tied for fourth, I guess. Great person.
Oh,
I'm glad we've elevated this person. Yeah, well, back to Greenland for just a second. We learned
yeah.
there will be a substantial increase in the number of Danish troops in Greenland as of today. There's already 100 that have shipped out, so I'm sure they'll stop the U.S. military
Yeah,
when
that should do it.
time comes. Uh, and yeah, it's just
But again, like the whole milk thing is a good example of just like this strange bouncing back and forth from like potentially truly paradigm shifting news, seeming on a day-to-day basis, to like these really crazy signals being sent that then everyone tries to figure out why. Like, what is the whole milk thing for? Who's it for?
well, it's not even
Um,
for the dairy people because skim milk is better for them because it's a byproduct that they skim off the part that make cheese and other stuff with.
mm,
And so skim milk's left over, so they can just bottle it up and sell. It's like whole
right,
milk,
right.
you have to use all the milk for this one thing. And it's like, it's
I did come across one that I did want to just bring up that is
please.
a little lighter, unless it's the actual end, in which case. But there was the Bank of England, um, woman Helen McCaw, who served as a senior analyst at the central bank, wrote to the Bank of England's governor urging him to set out contingencies in case the White House ever confirms the existence of alien life. Did you see this
I did
story?
not see this. No.
Yeah, I mean, hard to say what Miss McCaw's actual bona fides are currently, but like,
Sure. So is
it,
just because it'll cause a financial panic, like Arrival
well,
style?
yeah, like, wow, what a great finding. Do you need a whole white paper to be like, hey, look, if they announce alien life, that really could be a problem for the banks? It's like, yeah, Helen, it could be. In fact, I would go so far as to say it could be a massive problem.
Have you seen
And
a?
one of the quotes is
Please.
so here's the quote. She reportedly said, again, this has to be made clear. I'm reading this from The Independent, and that is the exact terminology. She reportedly said to the bank,
Uh-huh.
the United States government appears to be partway through a multi-year process to declassify and disclose information on the existence of a technologically advanced non-human intelligence responsible for UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena. She reportedly carries on, if the UAP proves to be of non-human origin, we may have to acknowledge the existence of a power or intelligence greater than any government, not greater than any government.
Great. I
No,
mean, but what about
dude,
God?
what would we
Like,
do if we were to find out there was a non-human entity even smarter than the UK government?
yeah, I mean, good Lord, what are we doing here? Um, so we've just got one more check-in on the news items to go through, and that is, of course, back to where this all started, which is with
Mm.
Venezuela, right? I mean, yeah, with where it all started, the meltdown of society. That was the first chink in the armor of society. But so Delcy Rodriguez, the temporary president, has given the State of the Union address. Those are
The
always
state of our union is strong. I mean, it's just like 10 days after your leader just got scooped up in a night raid.
got kidnapped. It's not good. They attacked, assaulted, killed, invaded, and kidnapped President Maduro and the First Lady, Ms. Rodriguez said Thursday. There is a stain on relations between the United States and
Just a stain.
Venezuela. Yeah.
Just a stain. Get a Tide Pod. It'll be fine.
She then whipsawed,
Mm,
urging legislators to approve a bill to open oil fields to new investment.
true.
Let us not be afraid of diplomacy, she said.
I like that too. The tying of like opening oil fields to new investments with the idea that this is just diplomacy.
Miss Rodriguez is
Let's not be
now.
afraid. Let us not be afraid of diplomacy. There's been so much diplomacy as of late. There was a bunch of diplomacy that one night when they scooped up Maduro, and there's been diplomacy ever since. So let us not be afraid of mere diplomacy, Stu.
Yeah, this is merely another step in the right direction towards world peace that we know is what
Hmm.
Trump's ultimate goal always is. It must be paramount, or whatever it was that Trump said in that absurd letter. Miss Rodriguez is now offering a newer groupthink to replace the anti-Americanism her government once stoked. Dudar es traicionar. Doubt is treason. This is like
And
some.
I believe, just to be clear, I believe this is, I think we pulled this from CNN. If you're wondering why it says Miss Rodriguez is now offering a newer group think, uh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, good lord.
nice.
The slogan appeared last year as the specter of U.S. invasion neared. Now it is printed on hats and jackets handed out by the government and angrily whispered among Venezuelans when anyone registers outrage about the government's alliance with Washington, the enemy they had once been told was preventing Venezuela from achieving prosperity.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes, I mean, Make America Great Again hats and Doubt is Treason hats actually kind of feel like they match, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. That's right. They're analogs of each other on some level. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the world. Not a lot of it very good. Don't have much reason for hope. And just to round out, do you think Trump's going to
I
get
mean, the
green?
one thing I will say,
Yeah, please.
hope-wise, is that, I think we should mention the efforts of people in Minnesota. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
you
There,
know,
there's real resistance.
it, it was paramount, I think, that there was a degree of real resistance that came out of this. And, you know, it's especially considering these are, people who largely are not from the state, right? The ICE agents
That's
who
right.
are coming in and saying and doing the craziest shit, just pulling random cars over in strip
Smashing
malls.
windows, people cutting people
It,
out.
it has been incredibly impressive, and I do think hopeful to see that people who have seen a woman, a U.S. citizen, etc., checking those boxes for the libs, but someone like that suffers such a
Just be
horrible
shot in the head
end.
for really
That's right.
no reason. Yeah.
To be putting their bodies on the line, I think has been pretty remarkable. I think that state has shown itself, despite the best efforts of Trump, just about as well as anyone in the union since Trump came back into power, and before that, with the
And
Floyd.
when he was in power before in the George
Yeah,
Floyd era. Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Um, so we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Trump has still threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and allegedly has 1,800 paratroopers ready to
which, by the
deploy.
way, many presidents have done before. He always says that every.
It hasn't been done since the LA riots, which was a little bit
Mhm.
more of a serious situation where
Yeah.
than what seems to be happening there. Although probably wrong to do it then also. If
Mhm.
um yeah, and do you think Trump's going to get Greenland? Do you think this Greenland gambit works? I kind of don't. I was talking with some friends earlier. Like, I think Trump likes to talk big, but when it comes to actually doing something, he's very reluctant, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, America all does American security forces not already have great influence in Greenland?
They have as much influence as they want, literally. Like, they can do
That's right.
whatever they want.
That's right.
The whole thing is built on a premise of lies. There's no reason for this,
Right. I mean, I think that
unless you want to just be purely extractive. Like if the real reason he wants Greenland is
right.
to just steal all of its mineral wealth,
But
with the
again, like
thought,
we talked about this in the Venezuela situation, right? Where
yep,
I forget who had said it exactly, but it was the idea that these these decisions don't reveal a nation or an empire increasing in power. It actually shows a lack of power and a deterioration of power. And that's the same in terms of what they view their influence and ability to control NATO as being, right?
absolutely.
The same way that they seem to be focused on this kind of our hemisphere stuff, right? I think it will end up being one of the defining pieces to second term Trump's foreign policy is exactly when anybody in the administration starts to reckon with the fact that in the greater picture, right, security, the various problems and issues with China and Russia, that NATO remains, even for things that we don't necessarily support, right, um, mission critical to many of the things that American power, even though it has
That's
perhaps
right. If you're
waned.
intent on maintaining this American empire, which I don't think we should be, but they seem to, in theory, that seems to be what
In
they
theory,
believe.
that's right.
It's a little weird that they're seemingly oblivious to the role that
Right. And so then
NATO
it's a
must play in that.
right. And so then it's just like, is this just another one of Trump's many transparently obvious attempts to get more control from NATO and or more money from NATO? Is it just that simple? Is he just going to keep kicking up a fuss about this stuff over and over again to get, whatever, more tariffs? It could be any.
Well, he's yeah. I mean, he's tariffing allegedly all NATO members that don't back his immediate acquisition of
Mhm,
Greenland. So
mhm.
great, great. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on all of this. Next week, we're going to go back to the movies
Yeah.
because why not? We're going to talk about a recent movie, namely Yorgos Lanthimos' Begonia, which
Hmm.
Michael has already seen. I'm about halfway through it. Has some relevance to a lot of the stuff we're talking about today, to sort of like media culture and
Yeah.
media, the way media belief functions in the contemporary world. I think that should be interesting. Until then, if you like the show, you can of course follow it on the podcatcher of your choice, and if you really like it, you can leave us a rating and or a review on that podcatcher. And you can also follow us on Instagram at the end of the world WMS, where we post reels from the show. I should also state that this episode may sound a little different because my soundboard that I use to record all the episodes is literally in California in the shop, and will be for the next couple weeks probably. I had it for 14 years. It served me very
Great
well.
run, yeah.
Well, not 14 years, 12 years, but a long time. And just needs a little tune up because it was getting a little squirrely in the last couple episodes. But hopefully that will be back in a couple weeks. But until then, we'll just have to make do with me trying to edit this Zoom audio. Hopefully it'll turn out okay. Hopefully I don't wake up tomorrow to a flood of text messages about I can't hear the episode. Stu, a couple weeks ago I uploaded the wrong episode and awoke to a flurry of Stu, you put up the Shining episode a second time. It's like, oh God. It's always my worst nightmare. But so begonia next time. That'll be fun. And until then, this has been the end of the world with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu. And we'll talk to you all real soon.